MPs have gone back to their constituencies to prepare for local elections. But don't panic, the Daily Politics is here, live and kicking, with a veritable feast of political coverage. Are UKIP a collection of clowns? Ken Clarke thinks so, but then he likes a spot of mudslinging, and they are enjoying a surge in the polls. So away from Westminster, the parties are busy campaigning for Thursday's local elections, which will be taking place mainly in England. 27 county councils are up for grabs, 7 unitary authorities and 2 mayoral elections in England. The Isle of Anglesey will also be up for election in Wales. Altogether, almost 2,500 seats are being contested. It's one of the last major tests of the political weather ahead of the general election in 2015. The last time these seats were contested was in 2009, when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. Then the estimated national equivalent share of the vote was Conservative 35%, Liberal Democrat 25% and Labour 22%. So 4 years on and a change of government later, how will each of the parties fare? And what of UKIP? They're doing well in the polls, came second at the Eastleigh by-election, and they're fielding candidates in 75% of the seats. And that's rattled the Tories. Yesterday, Ken Clarke had this to say.
The trouble with UKIP, really, is it's just a protest party. It's against the political parties, the political classes. It's very tempting to vote for a collection of clowns or indignant, angry people who promise that somehow they'll allow you to take your revenge on the people who caused it.
Ken Clarke there. Well, joining us from UKIP is their Executive Chairman, Steve Crowther. Welcome to the programme, Steve Crowther. Are you a collection of clowns?
No, I mean, clearly not. I love Ken Clarke because he is, having him around is fantastic, because he is the most wonderful example of why people vote UKIP, to be perfectly honest. He represents that old, as we said this morning, ossified elite. Yes, he is right that a lot of people are voting UKIP as a protest, but what a protest. I mean, there is a protest now against every part of the ruling elite that has been governing this country for the last 100 years.
Bob Neal, was Ken Clarke wrong? Is he just driving people into the arms of UKIP with comments like, they're a collection of clowns?
Well, Ken's got his own very colourful turn of phrase. I think the more serious point, actually, is that as UKIP have been fielding more candidates, they are rightly coming under more scrutiny, and they're being found wanting.
Let's have a look at some of the candidates, Steve Crowther. I mean, is it the case that if candidates have a neo-fascist past, that should be made public?
Well, certainly, and indeed we don't allow those people to be in our party. So where it has been shown that there are people who have come from organisations that we ban from membership, and let's face it, we are the only party that bans people from certain right-wing parties from membership, where that has been surfaced, we have immediately taken action saying, I'm awfully sorry, but you can't be a member of the party.
But it doesn't always surface, does it? Because you've got no formal vetting procedure. UKIP merely requires candidates to sign a disclosure form confirming they've never been members of the BNP.
We require, well, that's a two-stage process. First of all, they have to declare that they have never been a member of an organisation that we proscribe when they join the party, and then if they are offering themselves as candidates, they then have to sign a quite extensive declaration to say that they have again not been part of that. But can I point out that this is less than 0.3% of the candidates that we're standing, and considering the resources that the Conservative Party have put into trying to track everybody down, I think that's rather remarkable.
But it's not dirty tricks then, is it? No, but Paul Nuttall has said, your colleague has said, that the Conservatives are carrying out a dirty tricks campaign. It's not a dirty tricks campaign if it's true.
Well, I think what he's upset about, and what he was upset about when he said that, was that a lot of resources are being put into actually going and ferreting around on the Facebook pages and Twitter.
'Twas ever thus,
feeds.
I'm afraid.
Well,
I mean, you only have to ask the other parties about dirty tricks. They've been at the
Ming Candle said at the weekend, welcome to Test cricket, which I thought was quite a nice way of putting it.
Right, I mean, Bob Neal, why are you putting all these resources into compiling a 100-page dossier that Tory Central Office apparently handed into a national newspaper on Friday, unless you're running really scared?
Well, I think you've made the point. The reality is that any political party that wants to play on a national level must expect a national level of scrutiny.
Let's have a look at the black hole. What do you say in answer to this 100?
Well, I think that's very interesting, because I think probably the Conservative Party's researchers have looked at our manifesto from 2010. Let's face it, this is from a general election some while ago now.
All right.
I think they probably haven't been looking at our budget and economy paper that accompanied that manifesto, which is makes it perfectly clear that that isn't the case. We've identified 7 £77.3 billion worth of savings. They have added in the full cost of abolishing employers' national insurance, which we said we would phase in over 5 years according to the growth in the economy. So they've been playing with some of the figures.
It's not true.
It's absolutely not true.
OK, fine. Well, let's have a look and hear some of your other more distinctive policies. Let's hear this from one of your colleagues.
You said, Godfrey, it was back in just a few years ago, no self-respecting small businessman with a brain in the right place would ever employ a lady of childbearing age. Do you stand by that?
Yes, of course I do, and that's generally been vindicated as well. The point I was making, with draconian employment legislation, we have a problem that employers are frightened to employ women of childbearing age, so they tend to employ women whose families have grown up, and that's been vindicated in spades. And when I said that in 2004, it caused shock horror, and now it's received wisdom.
Steve Crowther, do you agree with Godfrey Bloom? No self-respecting small businessman with a brain in the right place would ever employ a lady of childbearing age.
I think he's slightly overstated the case, but it is true to say that it has now become more of a received wisdom that the degree of employment legislation has penalised women of childbearing age. The facts seem to bear that out, and I think Godfrey is simply pointing that out. He is a member of the Women's Committee of the European Parliament, and that is the context in which he's speaking.
Tom Brake, UKIP are fielding more candidates than you are, and this is one of their policy positions.
Well, according to our figures, we're fielding slightly more than UKIP,
that's what's changed recently, because according to our figures, you're fielding slightly fewer.
Well, the figures I got today say that we're fielding more candidates.
All right.
We can have an argument
about
whether
we won't.
It's plus,
I'll let
plus
you.
or
All right, so
10
you've
or
got
20,
up to there.
But I think the important thing is clearly UKIP are fielding candidates, and it's entirely right that what I want them to be judged on is how they perform against the parameters that we've set, which is we want to ensure that our councils and our councillors deliver a stronger economy in a fairer society, enabling everyone to get on in life. That's how I want UKIP, and indeed the Conservatives and Labour, to be judged in the upcoming elections.
But UKIP are replacing you as the party of protest, because, of course, now you're part of the coalition. That's the big worry for you in these local elections.
Well, let's see what the results show.
This has to be a good set of election results for Labour, because they were so disastrous in 2009. But Boris Johnson, the Mayor of London, has written that the rise of UKIP confirms that a Tory approach is broadly popular, and that in the middle of a parliament, after long years of recession and with growth more or less flat, the Labour Party is going precisely nowhere. They actually pose a big risk to you too.
Well, I think all the mainstream political parties are right to engage with UKIP and, frankly, all the parties on the big issues facing their country. I think when you take a look at, I think Bob's right, that there should be scrutiny of UKIP policies. People should know if you vote UKIP, you're going to get bigger cuts to local services and the NHS than even the Tory and Lib Dem government are proposing. You're going to get bigger tax cuts for the wealthiest than even the Lib Dems and Tories are doing in Westminster.
As far as UKIP is concerned, though, there seems to be confusion over many of the policy positions. We had Godfrey Bloom again saying trying to get policy agreed is like herding cats.
Well, I don't think that's unique to UKIP, is it? I'm sure that the
So you agree you can't get policy positions actually agreed in the party?
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, to say that creating policies like herding cats, I mean, all political parties are currently going through a process, as we've seen very recently, there's another old Etonian in number 10, of trying to pull their policy together for the election coming in 2015. We are doing the same. We're doing it actually with very much more resources than we've ever done before. It is something that I take personal charge of, and there was nothing actually in what Godfrey said and Stuart Wheeler said to each other over the weekend that was anything other than just the normal banter between senior colleagues.
Steve Crowther, thank you. Parliament may have prorogued, but many hard-working hacks, you'll be pleased to know, Bob Neal, are still there, keeping an eye on the place. And luckily, we've got two of them to give us their take on the local elections. Laura Pittle from The Times and The Independent's Oliver Wright. Welcome to both of you. Laura, who do you think are going to be the big losers in these elections?
Well, it's probably going to be the Tories, as you've been discussing in the studio, but what we here in Westminster are all keeping our eye on is the UKIP vote. The big test is going to be not just how many seats they can pick up, but also what share of the vote they get. If they manage to significantly increase that, then there's going to be trouble in store for the Tories here.
What about, Oliver Wright, the Liberal Democrats? Because one could argue these could be very, very tough for them.
They could, and again, as Laura's making, it's the UKIP factor that we just don't know about, because some of the councils which the Lib Dems hold, which the Tories would quite like to get back, what happens to the UKIP vote is going to be absolutely crucial to that, because actually if a lot of Tories decide that they're going to go to UKIP, by default you could see the Liberal Democrats hang on, much like they did in Eastleigh.
What about the sort of, we've been talking about losses and gains, Labour, Tories. What have the levels, do you think, got to be for both Labour and the Tories to claim it hasn't been a disastrous night for them, Laura?
I think Labour, or local government professors and strategists are talking about Labour really looking to gain about 350 seats, and the Tories, as you've been discussing, if they lose 300, they'll sort of say that's okay. They were kind of expecting that after making such massive gains in 2009 that weren't really going to be sustainable. If it's much above that, they're going to be getting worried. And especially, sorry to keep going on about the UKIP factor, but that's what everybody's watching. And backbenchers are really going to be clamouring for Cameron to go further on issues like immigration and Europe if they pick up a big share of the vote.